where they can come up with creative solutions. Let's imagine that European citizens actually have the power to vote directly for a European president, or citizen juries chosen by lottery which can deliberate on critical and controversial issues. A European-wide referendum where our citizens, as the lawmakers, vote on future treaties. And here's an idea. Why not have the first truly European citizens by giving our immigrants, not Greek or German or Swedish citizenship, but a European citizenship? And make sure we actually empower the unemployed by giving them a voucher, a scholarship, where they can choose to study anywhere in Europe. Where our common identity is democracy. Where our education is through participation, and where participation builds trust and solidarity rather than exclusion and xenophobia. Europe of and by the people. A Europe, an experiment in deepening and widening democracy beyond borders. Now, some might accuse me of being naive, putting my faith in the power and the wisdom of the people. Well, after decades in politics, I am also a pragmatist. Believe me, I have been, I am part of today's political system. And I know things must change. We must revive politics as the power to imagine, reimagine, and redesign for a better world. But I also know that this disruptive force of change won't be driven by the politics of today. The revival of democratic politics will come from you, and I mean all of you. Everyone who participates in this global exchange of ideas, whether it's here in this room or just outside this room, or online or locally where everybody lives, everyone who stands up to injustice and inequality, everybody who stands up to those who preach racism rather than empathy, dogma rather than critical thinking, technocracy rather than democracy, everyone who stands up to the unchecked power, whether it's authoritarian leaders, plutocrats hiding their assets in tax havens, or powerful lobbies protecting the powerful few. It is in their interest that all of us are idiots. Let's not be. Thank you.
You seem to describe a political leadership that's kind of unprepared and prisoner of the winds of the financial markets. And that scene in Brussels that you described, to me as a citizen, is terrifying. Help us understand how you felt after the decision. It was not a good decision, clearly, but how do you feel after that, not as the Prime Minister, but as George?
Well, obviously there were constraints which didn't allow me or others to make the types of decisions we would have wanted. And obviously, I had hoped that we would have the time to make the reforms which would have dealt with the deficit rather than trying to cut the deficit, which was the symptom of the problem. And that hurt. That hurt because that, first of all, hurt the younger generation, and not only. Many of them are demonstrating outside. But I think this is one of our problems. When we face these crises, we have kept the huge potential of our society out of this process. And we are closing in on ourselves in politics, and I think we need to change that, to really find new participatory ways, using the great capabilities that now exist, even in technology, but not only in technology, the minds that we have, and I think we can find solutions which are much better, but we have to be open.
You seem to suggest that the way forward is more Europe, and that seems not to be an easy discourse right now in most European countries. It's rather the other way, more close borders and less cooperation, and maybe even stepping out of some of the different parts of the European construction. How do you reconcile that?
Well, I think one of the worst things that happened during this crisis is we started a blame game. And the fundamental idea of Europe is that we can cooperate beyond borders, go beyond our conflicts and work together. And the paradox is that because we have this blame game, we have less the potential to convince our citizens that we should work together, while now is the time when we really need to bring our powers together. Now, more Europe, for me, is not simply giving more power to Brussels. It is actually giving more power to the citizens of Europe. That is, really making Europe a project of the people. So that, I think, would be a way to answer some of the fears that we have in our society.
George, thank you for coming to TED.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.